Well, folks, how we doing? Welcome back to the show. Just a short video here. Wanted to jump on and have a chat about Sting. I mentioned it on the show last night, Pro Wrestling Weekly, that we would have a chat about Sting and his final match at Revolution, AEW Revolution, coming up shortly now in about, I think roughly about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, early March anyway. Um, Saying last night what happened, the Bucks attacking him and then laying out his two sons and all that kind of stuff, and winning the gold, and how they bigged up him winning the AEW tag belt gold, and how important that was and all that kind of stuff. Really, in the relevance of his career, how important is it really to win the tag gold? It really just sets a kind of a narrative onto this last match in terms of the Bucks. But I wanted to talk about Sting and Sting's career and stuff like that. And I go all the way back to Jim Crockett Promotions that I watched as a kid on telly. And Sting came into Jim Crockett Promotions as this upstart. And of course, before that, he was doing stuff with Warrior and the Blade Runners and all that kind of stuff around the circuit and stuff like that and all. But he came in as Sting, this upstart, the beach, the blonde hair, all that kind of thing. And straight away was propelled into a situation where he was kind of up against the Four Horsemen, as a lot of people at that time did. Jimmy Garvin, Ron Garvin, Dusty, of course, Nikita Koloff, so many of them battling away against the Horsemen. Of course, the Road Warriors, infamous for their matches against the Four Horsemen at the time. And I remember it was a Ric Flair appreciation night in Raleigh, North Carolina. Where else would it be, really? And the Four Horsemen were there celebrating, and they had the ladies and the champagne and all that kind of stuff. And Sting had a match in the ring, and after the match he called out Ric Flair. And I remember J.J. Dillon coming down to the ring and throwing a glass of champagne in his face, which seems to be a big thing in Sting's career, to get drinks thrown in his face. Seems to be his thing. And I remember him dragging J.J. into the ring and hitting him with the Stinger Splash. And then diving out of the ring. The Four Horsemen hit the ring. They went absolutely crazy. And if you want to know the realism of it back then, go and check out Ric Flair's promo after that match with David Crockett, I think, was in the ring. And the intensity was unbelievable, and they turned it up a notch. And from there on, then, that Sting's career just took off. Absolutely huge. Goes into WCW, goes through a number of changes, becomes that kind of Dark Crow character, all that kind of stuff, synonymous with his work in WCW. Unfortunately for him, because he never wanted to work for Vince and WWE. Hindsight's, of course, a great thing. But sat out for a little while and then went into TNA, came into TNA. Kind of up and down career in TNA, really was kind of used in terms of getting talent over and stuff like that. Very, very interesting, his career in TNA, the way it moves and stuff like that, the stuff he did with Styles. Obviously the other stuff, the Hardy stuff and all's forgettable and stuff like that, to be honest, and kind of wound down his career in there, and it kind of petered out kind of like a damn squid, really. The stuff with Magnus and stuff like that and all really was kind of irrelevant. Ended up going to WWE in the end. Was brought in and was poorly booked. Went in, it was obviously, there was a deal done there and there was a payday and all that kind of stuff, but his last matches in WWE were just nonsense, really, to be honest. I'm sure he looks back on it as part of his career as probably weighs up the money versus the decision and whether it was a good decision or not. Goes into AEW, mainly paired up with Darby Allin and stuff like that, trying to give these young guys this kind of rub, as they call it. Has done some crazy stuff in there. Kind of a little bit being let down by the promotion in terms of the capturing of some of those moments. Camera work, as we know, in the early days wasn't the best thing in AEW, so some of those cool moments, some of those dives, some of those spots were missed. A lot of people questioning whether he should be doing them or not. Darby Allin coming out going, it's not me that's pushing him to do it, this is all Sting, which I would well believe, because I'm sure he's fully in control of his own creative. And then we lead to a decision where Ric Flair comes in. Ric Flair's kind of going to get involved in the company in terms of the build up to Sting's last match. Looks like the last match now is going to be against the Bucks. So the question for you guys is, how do you feel about how this has gone? How do you feel about Sting's career in general? The icon, the Showtime, all that kind of stuff, and all that. The Crow character. How do you feel about his career, and where do you gauge his career? Good questions being asked out there on Twitter at the moment. Where does Sting lie amongst the greats in professional wrestling? Where would he land on your list? Not often I hear him mentioned on many people's Mount Rushmores. I'm not even sure does he make the WCW Mount Rushmore. For some people, maybe he does. I think he had a really, really good career up to a point. And I think that the 2001 situation with WCW and WWE kind of halted that situation. We know WCW was kind of on the decline anyway. But it left him in a kind of a dilemma as to what to do and stuff like that, you know. So the question for you today is, where do you leave Sting? Where does Sting sit on your Mount Rushmore, or on your top list? Or does he arrive on one of your Mount Rushmores? How do you feel about how his career has gone? Certainly it's pittered out. Not necessarily very good. Maybe his decision in terms of WWE initially is probably vindicated knowing what we know now. But let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about this? His last match against the Bucks. Will it be his last match? Is that going to be the case? Will that be final? Should that be his last match? Or should he be going up against a guy maybe who's in there like Jericho, who has a body of work that's unbelievable, who has a career that's been unbelievable, and also has evolved and evolved and evolved again? Is that the match that should be put out there, or should the Bucks be the one to end Sting's career? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But it's interesting. We're going to be looking at Sting's career this week, next week on Pro Wrestling Weekly. We'll take a little delve into Sting's career, and we'll get your thoughts on the show as well. But at the moment, how do you feel about it? The Stinger's career coming to an end at AEW Revolution, last match against the Young Bucks. How do you feel about the family getting involved and the storyline and all that? Does it all come full circle at the end and make sense? Did it move the needle? Has it changed the ratings? We can only wait and see what the reaction is next week. Let us know your thoughts. As always, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button, and drop a like on the video. Thanks, and tune in next week.